Okay, so we're diving deep today into some really fascinating stuff from the law of one material.
Hmm.
And we're going to be focusing on the idea of far-seeing, or what's sometimes called visioning.
Yeah, it's a compelling concept, right? Like, what if we had abilities beyond just our normal five senses?
Absolutely. And this idea that maybe some of those abilities are kind of dormant within us.
Right, like something we've forgotten or that's been veiled from us.
Exactly. So to kick things off, let's jump right into a quote that really gets to the heart of what we'll be exploring.
Sounds good.
It says, "Without the veil, the mind was not caught in your illusory time."
Okay, so right away we have this idea of a veil that's kind of a central theme in the Law of One.
Right, it's not a physical veil, right?
Yeah.
It's more like a kind of filter on our perception.
Yeah, more like a limitation on how we experience reality and especially our understanding of time and space.
So for us right now, time feels very linear. One thing happens after another, but this quote suggests that maybe that's not the whole picture.
Exactly. And the material really dives into this idea that before this veil came into place, time wasn't experienced in that linear way at all.
Wow, so how is that even possible? Like, what did time feel like before the veil?
Think of it this way. Instead of a river flowing in one direction, imagine a vast ocean where all the water exists at the same time.
Okay, that's a pretty mind-blowing image.
Right. And that's closer to how the material describes the pre-veil experience of time.
So this veil essentially shifted our perception and made this linear, step-by-step experience of time the dominant way we see things.
Exactly. It's like space-time became our default setting, and we kind of lost that natural connection to what's called time-space.
And time-space is that realm where all moments kind of exist together, right?
Precisely. And the material suggests that losing that connection resulted in a diminished ability to do this far seeing.
So what exactly was this far seeing? What were they able to see or understand that we can't?
Well, the material describes far seeing as being able to perceive across different timelines or dimensions.
Wow, so it's not like predicting the future in a fortune teller sense, but more like having access to a wider perspective on reality.
Right. It's more about understanding the underlying patterns, the deeper currents that shape things.
So how did they actually do this far seeing? What was the mechanism behind it?
This is where it gets really intriguing because Ra describes the deeper mind as operating on a level of unspoken understanding.
Unspoken understanding. What does that even mean?
Think about how music can convey emotions and meaning without needing any words.
Oh, I get that like a melody can make you feel happy or sad without needing lyrics.
Exactly. It's about grasping something beyond the surface level, and the material suggests that farseeing was similar to that.
So it's like tapping into a deeper level of knowing, a kind of intuitive understanding.
Precisely. And this farseeing is described as being able to access what's called archetypal vision.
Archetypal vision, so like the fundamental patterns and symbols that underlie reality.
Yeah, exactly. Like accessing a universal library of understanding.
That's incredible. But it also makes it sound pretty difficult to even wrap our heads around.
It is. And the text even says that this kind of vision is too rich and exotic to be spoken.
Wow. So our language doesn't really have the words to fully describe what it was like?
Right. It's trying to point us towards something that goes beyond our normal ways of thinking and perceiving.
So it's clear that this veil has had a significant impact on our abilities.
Yeah, it's really limited our access to this far seeing. But the good news is that the material offers ways to start reawakening those abilities.
Okay, so how do we even begin to do that? It sounds pretty daunting.
Well, it's not about suddenly seeing across time and space, but more about subtly shifting our awareness.
Okay, that sounds a bit more manageable. So where do we start?
The material emphasizes dream work as one of the primary pathways.
Oh, yeah, dreams, those weird and wonderful nightly adventures.
But they're not just random brain activity, according to this. They're a direct form of communication that still happens through the veil.
So our subconscious is talking to us through these symbols and stories?
Exactly. And it's suggesting that our subconscious is actually still fluent in that pre-veil language of archetypes and symbols.
Hmm, that makes sense because sometimes my dreams feel so profound even if I don't fully understand them.
Right. And the material suggests that dreams can reflect energy blockages within us or areas where we might be stuck.
Oh, so it's like those recurring nightmares that keep coming back.
They could be a sign that something needs attention, and dreams can also show us moments of growth or breakthrough.
So even those really positive and inspiring dreams are trying to tell us something.
Exactly. And working with our dreams consciously is presented as a really powerful tool.
So like keeping a dream journal and reflecting on the symbols and emotions.
Yeah, and the material talks about how dream work can aid what's called polarization.
Polarization. What does that mean in this context?
It's about becoming more clearly aligned with your core values and understanding.
Okay, so like fine-tuning our inner compass.
Exactly. And dream work can help us do that by giving us insight into our subconscious patterns and beliefs.
All right, so that's dream work. What else could we do to start reclaiming this far seeing?
Another key is cultivating our intuition.
Ah, intuition. That gut feeling that sometimes guides us.
But the material emphasizes a really important balance here. Intuition isn't meant to work in isolation.
Right, you can't just throw logic out the window and go purely on gut feelings.
Exactly. And the material actually quotes Ra on this, saying, without the acceptance by the rational mind of the worth of the intuitive faculty, the creative aspects will be stifled.
Wow, so our rational mind needs to acknowledge and accept the value of intuition.
Precisely, it's about recognizing those inner hunches, those sudden insights, those synchronicities that feel meaningful.
And allowing them to inform our understanding alongside our logical reasoning.
Exactly. It's not about turning off our brains, but more about opening ourselves up to another source of information.
So it's like expanding our toolkit for navigating life.
Right. And the third area that the material highlights is developing what's called sacred time or time-space awareness.
Okay, we touched on this earlier with the idea that all time is simultaneous in time-space.
Right. It's about remembering that the linear progression we experience isn't the ultimate reality.
The whole map versus the single road analogy.
Exactly. And the material suggests that beings operating from this time-space perspective have a much broader understanding of their existence.
So they can see their various lifetimes and process past experiences with greater clarity.
Right. And they can even plan future lifetimes with a fuller awareness of the bigger picture.
Wow, that's a pretty profound level of awareness.
It is, and the material suggests that we can start to connect with this deeper layer through practices that bring us into the present moment.
So things like mindfulness and being fully present in the now.
Exactly. And engaging with ritual and consciously recalling our dreams can also help.
Okay, so by being present and tapping into those less linear aspects of our experience, we can start to get a glimpse of this time-space awareness.
That's the idea. It's about shifting our focus from the ticking clock to the richness of the present and the echoes of our deeper self.
I love that. And there's another tool that the material mentions, meditation, contemplation, and silence.
The classics. Those practices are specifically highlighted for their ability to quiet the constant chatter of our space-time focused minds.
Right. Because when our minds are quiet, we can start to hear those subtler whispers of intuition.
Exactly. And these practices are described as tools of the unmanifested self, connecting us to that time-space reality where our limitations are less restrictive.
So it's like creating space for those deeper forms of knowing to emerge.
Precisely. And speaking of tools for going beyond the veil, there's one that often gets overlooked, imagination.
Imagination. That sounds a bit too simple to be a key to unlocking these deeper abilities.
I know, but the material actually confirms its crucial role and even quotes Ra on this, saying, there are as many ways to penetrate the veil as the imagination of mind-body-spirit complexes could provide.
Wow. So our imagination is a powerful tool for exploring beyond our normal limitations.
Exactly. And imagination here isn't just about daydreaming or making up stories.
So it's more than just fantasy.
Right. It's presented as a sacred inner sight, a faculty that creates visions, symbols, and metaphors through which our unconscious mind speaks.
So it's the language of our deeper self, the way it communicates its wisdom.
Precisely, and the material links imagination to those unmanifested activities of the self, like dreaming and meditation.
Highlighting its role in opening our awareness to deeper understanding.
Exactly. It's like imagination is a muscle we've forgotten how to use, but it's still there waiting to be strengthened.
And this brings us to the concept of the potentiator of the mind, which is described as embodying both imagination and intuition.
Yeah, and it's fascinating that this is archetypally represented as the veiled feminine figure often associated with the high priestess in the tarot.
The high priestess, the card of hidden knowledge and inner wisdom.
Exactly. And the material actually states, the potentiator of the mind to the biological female, that which awakes the reaching, may be seen as a female principle.
So it's not about gender in a literal sense, but more about that receptive, intuitive aspect within all of us.
Right, that feminine inner temple, that quiet, sacred space that we can access through stillness and focused attention.
That's a beautiful image. But if this deep mind communicates through symbols and images, how do we even understand what it's trying to tell us?
Well, it's definitely not a straightforward language. It operates on a different level. The material explains that without conscious intent, the use of catalyst is never processed through mediation, ideation, and imagination.
Okay, break that down for me. What does that even mean?
Basically, it's saying that just going through life events, the catalyst isn't enough for deep understanding.
So we need to actively engage with those experiences through imaginative reflection.
Precisely, it's about taking the raw data of our lives and weaving them into meaningful patterns and stories.
So it's like dreaming while awake,
Yeah.
using our imagination to make sense of our experiences,
Exactly. And the material goes on to define intuition as the mind's connection to what's called the total beingness complex.
which is basically our higher self and beyond, right?
Yeah, that wider perspective that exists in time-space.
So intuition isn't just a vague feeling. It's a connection to a much larger pool of wisdom.
Exactly. And it offers us a more complete understanding, a whole perspective as the text describes it.
Okay, so we're circling back to this idea of time-space, which is described as metaphysical and timeless.
Right, and the material really emphasizes the difference between space-time, which is the tangible linear world we experience every day.
And time-space, which is more like the realm of the soul.
Exactly, and Ra describes time-space as a place where experiences are intangible, time becomes infinite, and mass ceases.
Okay, so it's a fundamentally different way of existing.
It is, and it's really hard to wrap our heads around from our limited space-time perspective.
So how do we even begin to grasp what this time-space reality is like?
The material offers this really helpful analogy. It says, in time-space, all times are simultaneous, just as in your geography, all cities are bustling at once.
Okay, I like that. So it's like having a map in space-time. We're traveling down one road, experiencing one city at a time.
But in time-space, we can see the entire map, all the cities, and all the connections between them.
Wow, that's a great way to visualize it.
Mhm.
So if all time is happening at once in this realm, what does that mean for things like healing or understanding our lives?
Well, the material explains that after our physical lives end, our consciousness returns to this time-space realm.
So it's like we go back to that place where we can see the bigger picture.
Exactly, and it's described as a place of review and forgiveness where we can see our entire life experience in a kind of frozen moment.
So we can finally understand the patterns and choices that shaped our journey.
Precisely, and the healing happens through fully seeing those patterns, understanding our choices, forgiving ourselves, and planning our next steps with that complete overview.
Wow, that's a powerful process.
It is. And the material suggests that we can actually tap into this kind of awareness now through imaginative practices like life review meditations.
So we can kind of rehearse for that grand review by
And it does.
consciously trying to access that wider perspective.
Exactly. And speaking of accessing other realms, the material highlights dreams again as a vital bridge between space-time and time-space.
Dreams keep coming up. They must be really important.
They are. The material reveals that the dreaming process uses the bridge from metaphysical to physical for what seems to be a brief period, but the time-space equivalent is far greater.
So even though a dream might feel short in our linear time, it can be much more expansive in time-space.
Exactly. And those dreams that feel particularly vivid or symbolic, those are seen as glimpses of deeper truths from the roots of mind.
So paying attention to our dreams is really crucial.
It is, and the material encourages practices like dream journaling as a way to connect with those timeless aspects of our being.
Okay, that's definitely going on my to-do list. And finally, the material touches on how spiritual healing occurs.
Yeah, it states that healing actually begins in time-space and then manifests in our physical space-time reality.
So the real healing happens in that timeless realm.
Exactly. And this highlights that practices like ritual affirmation and meditation, while performed in our linear time, have their primary impact in that timeless realm.
So real time, in a spiritual sense, isn't about the clock. It's about our soul's openness to the realm of spirit.
Precisely, and that's a powerful reminder that our spiritual practices are working on a deeper level than we might realize.
So with this understanding of the nonlinear nature of time and the potential of our inner vision, how might that subtly influence our daily lives and decisions right now?
That's the key question to ponder. What if those sudden flashes of intuition, those vivid and symbolic dreams, aren't just random occurrences?
Right, what if they're actually echoes of this far-seeing ability that's still within us?
Exactly. Maybe they're reminders of that deeper, more interconnected reality that exists beyond the veil.
And if we start to pay attention to those glimpses, without them that inner knowing and the symbolic language of our deeper mind?
It could subtly reshape how we experience things, the choices we make, our overall understanding of reality.
It really makes you wonder what other illusory boundaries we've accepted as truth.
Indeed, and perhaps by gently exploring these lost faculties, we can start to perceive the subtle power of our own inner vision and glimpse that vaster reality that's waiting to be rediscovered.
It's a beautiful invitation to explore the depths of our own being.
Absolutely, and to remember that we are far more than we often realize.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been a fascinating exploration.
It's been my pleasure, and remember, keep exploring, keep dreaming, keep imagining.
Because who knows what incredible abilities might be waiting to be awakened within us.
Absolutely, the journey of self-discovery is an endless adventure.
Until next time, keep seeking.
And keep seeing.